Hello and welcome to my craft room tour video. I am the host of the Freakish Lemon video podcast. I am the Freakish Lemon, I go by Adrian, and I use masculine pronouns, and today I'm going to show you the upstairs craft room. This room, it actually provides several functions. It is a craft room, it is a spare bedroom, it is an office for my mom when she has to do paperwork from home. And it's the dog's bedroom. She has a kennel and a playpen that usually extends out and around this section of the room. I've packed away the playpen so that I can move the camera around, but it's also the entrance to the attic and lots of storage up here for stuff that we don't really use. This actually used to be Gabby from the Once Upon a Corgi podcast's bedroom. But I'm going to show you the craft room section of it. I've been thinking about doing this video for a while, especially once Andy from the Andre Sunitz podcast started having a thread where you flash your stash. And I know people like to see people's stashes, and I've been working on reorganizing mine for a while, so now that everything's set and all the Christmas stuff has been put away, I can show you this craft room. And we're gonna start over here in basically my equipment corner. This is a bedside table that is full of actually mostly stuff that Gabby left behind, like all these pencils and markers and notepads. Always handy to have a drawer full of those in your craft room. I've got matches in here, and plastic bags, and this bag of rice that I sometimes use to weigh down my Lazy Kate when I'm plying yarn, because sometimes I yank it too hard and it falls over. I don't think there's anything in this drawer. There's a basket and a piece of cardboard. So So yeah, that's what I have there. I have this. This is actually a kitchen utensil holder that I got at Ocean State Job Lot, which is one of those cheap resell-y stores, which has my drop spindles and a bunch of wooden spoons and the dowel portion of my interchangeable nitty-notty. Do I have the pieces over here? I do. The rest of the nitty-notty is in here. Okay, so you assemble it like so, and there's 3 different lengths of dowels that I have for this nitty-notty that I keep in this bucket. This basket has spinning materials. There is my regular flyer for the Ashford Kiwi 2. I have the jumbo flyer on the wheel right now, but there's the regular one, the drive band, all the pieces, my tags for my hand spun, and the little dish that I have for supported spindling and a Turkish spindle. Any bits and pieces I might need at hand for when I'm spinning. And then I have this little thing. Let me scoot back here. And again, a basket for bits and bobs, a junk pair of scissors that I could use on anything, some tape, pin cushions. This is a lotion by therosefield.com. It's kind of a greasy lotion, but I prefer it for when I'm spinning. Sometimes spinning just sucks all the moisture out of my hands. This is a tea tin that has scrap yarn pieces in it that I use for leader yarns. I have a thing of Dawn dish soap up here. And I've got a bunch of things in these bins. This one probably has the most stuff in it. It's got containers with buttons. Let me tilt that down. My sock loom I have a timer in there. I've got some chargers in here. I have my blocking pins, pom-pom makers. I have a couple of pom-poms, that kind of stuff. This is plastic bags, and I have a plastic bag full of swatches and just bits, and that's really all that's in here. And this is more of a sewing bin down here. This is full of zippers and elastic. I have some bias tape, some pieces of interfacing, just tiny things to keep out of the way. And back here, I have my blocking wire kit. It's called the Block Kit, BLOCKIT. And I bought this off of Overstock.com, I think. But it's just a tube, ow, that I can't open with my fingers. But it's got my blocking wires in there. I think 9 wires altogether. They're the straight ones that extend the full length of this tube. In this section of the room, you have the main work table where I do the majority of the actual tabletop crafting portion, and also my Ashford Kiwi 2. This is my spinning wheel. It is the untreated wood, and I never did any finishing on it. I might do that this summer, but I don't know. I know you're supposed to keep it working for as long as possible, but I haven't had any issues with it, and this wheel is 2 or 3 years old now, so at this point I might not even bother. But I'm going to show you the junk lined up under this table because I need to utilize every single ounce of space that I can, because I just keep accumulating things. So behind the spinning wheel is one of these 58 quart Sterilite plastic tubs, and this has fabric in it. It has a basket full of ribbon, just like odds and ends craft stuff that doesn't really have a place anywhere else. A lot of this stuff is stuff that was my mom's, because my mom's stuff is also up in this room, so this is one of the bins where it's mixed stuff. Some of it is mine, some of it is mom's. It's whoever finds a use for it gets to use it type of thing. And then we have these 10-gallon totes, which are the totes that I bought to wash my fleece in. So these ones are clean, and they're just stacked here out of the way. And when I'm finished washing my fleeces, these will just stay here with all the supplies I have for washing the fleece inside them, out of the way. This is a milk crate with my blocking mats. I have an actual knitter's blocking set here, which came with a bunch of T-pins, and it's got 10 squares. And then I bought a supplementary child's foam play mats for less than half the price. My sewing machine pedal is here, and I have a case for my sewing machine, which doesn't have anything in it at the moment because I don't need to bring my sewing machine anywhere at this time. Now this is a corner of my main work table. You can see I have a small cutting mat here if I need to cut something small. I have my Lazy Kate up here out of the way of the dog. I have this cork board thing. It's very thin cork board. I bought it at Michael's. There was a clearance sale. It doesn't actually function very well as a cork board, but it does have some helpful things like this ruler, my reps per inch guide gauge thing, this little ruler, a couple of notes such as how long one wrap on the nitty notty is with each of the different size dowels. Just some notes. These are all the test swatches I did when I first got my current sewing machine so I could play with all the stitches. You can see there's also one for learning how to make buttonholes over here. I don't know actually how clear that is on the screen because it's so far away, but I do have that. I also have a pair of goggles. Those are actually cosplay goggles, but when I was washing my fleeces the first time, and I had them up here and I had the fans going and I was trying to pick through what was dry and what wasn't because there was so much fleece on the table that the top portions and the side portions would dry. I have to pick off the dry parts and let the wet parts dry. But I had these fans going and veg matter was just blowing into my eyes. So I have a pair of goggles up here just in case I need them. This is a cube. These shelves were actually Gabby's shelves when she went to college. They didn't support the items that she needed them to in her dorm room, so they were retired. And we've lost a bunch of the connectors, so this cube is just tied together with cotton. Inside this bin is the prize things that I have for the podcast. There's the yarn I showed on the last podcast, and the yarns from Java Suan, and the prizes for the Start Something New 2016 Cal, just to keep it at the ready but out of the way. This was just going to be a pile of hand-spun from my fleeces, but it turns out I didn't have enough room for the most recent yarn that I had purchased. So it's just kind of chilling out up here for now, until I clear out some other stash. I've got some rags to wipe off the table, which is always handy. I have practice quilt squares. And we'll move on to my sewing stuff that I have up here. And this is the main workstation portion of the table. We have my sewing machine under here. It is a Singer Inspiration? Talent. Inspiration's the old one. Singer Talent. I have a speaker that I use for the podcast and audiobooks on my phone. I have my sewing box. And I have my Knit Picks ball winder over there, which is the only thing that will stay attached to these tables. Because you're pulling yarn to the thing as opposed to away from the thing. I cannot hook up my Swift or my my rigid heddle loom to these tables because they're plastic. They just bend. But since that is pulling the thing and not being pulled, I can attach that thing to this table. Which I'm very glad about, because trying to find another space where I could attach another clamp thing would have been crazy town. You can also see this corner back here. That's a rocking horse that my dad made me when I was a little kid. And I made it a tiny little granny square blanket out of some scrap yarn. There's also this plastic thing. It's one of those like foam bed mat plastic things, and that is full of acrylic and acrylic blend worsted weight yarn that is planned to be either one large blanket or two small blankets all together. And you can see a little bit over here. I'll just turn the camera a smidge. This is my mom's sewing machine under this blanket, which she likes to sit by the window when she sews, and she needs the table right next to it so she can have a lamp on if it's dark. So I've rearranged this corner several different ways since my sister moved out, but that's the one thing that needs to stay right there. It's my mom's sewing machine. Before we get started on my stash nonsense back here, I just wanted to point out that my Swift is set up and it is clamped to a folding chair. This is my solution to not being able to clamp it to the table. And for the most part, this always stays out on this folding chair. You just move the chair around when you need to get it out of the way. So this is the start of my stash wall. I will start from the top and go down. At the very top, we have these plastic dish pans that I use to wash my knits in. There's two up there. This is my big Craftsy order of all that Lion brand Scarfy, which didn't have anywhere else to go. Here's some more of these flimsy shelves. Again, you make use of what you've got. We've got a bunch of those shelves, and I needed an extra tier. This cube is washing supplies. Washing and setting. I have soak, I have allure, I have kookaburra, I have vinegar, and I have citric acid to set dyes with. These are just some scraps of stuff. I have a spray bottle. I have a measuring cup. There's a bottle in there, just a water bottle to fill with water to refill the iron, because that's easier to do than putting the iron under the sink. And this basket is full of a bunch of fibery things. It has it's got bobbins in it. It has, these are the shuttles for my loom. This is the brush for my blending board, the stand for my blending board, the stand for my tabletop Swift. Any of that stuff kind of gets chucked into this basket where I can easily find it. Here in this first cube we have project bags. You can see I have a spare cube under here if I need it. This has all project bags that are not currently in use that I have. And you can see here is my blending board, which is really hard to push back in properly if you're not paying attention. This is the start of my stash. I will take each of these sections out and photograph them so that you can see them, because that's what you want to see is the stash. But most of my stash is actually in these containers back here. I'm gonna get down here where it's easier to talk to you. This is an old house. It is not airtight. We get a lot of daddy long legs. We get crickets. We get ladybugs some summers in extraordinary amounts. Beetles occasionally. We clean this house, but it's hard to manage the insect population. We also live in the woods, and while none of those things will hurt yarn, it is unpleasant to find them when you're not expecting them. So the yarn, for the most part, is in containers. I feel comfortable leaving a couple of them out, just because I have to move them in order to get to the rest of the yarn, so they're not going to be sitting there for a long time. But I will photograph each section of the stash so I can show you the stash. This is my hand spun that I'm anticipating actually using. I have hand spun downstairs that's in the shop because I don't know what I'm going to do with it, if I'm ever going to do anything with it. So this is all stuff that I anticipate using from my hand spun. We come down to these two, and these two sections are fingering weight yarn, sock yarn. I think there's 1 or 2 sport weight yarns. There's a couple of lace weights, but for the most part it's fingering weight yarns here. Then down here at the bottom, let's see if I can adjust this without getting too crazy. Sorry for the jostling. Is a tiny rocking chair with a pillow on it. But there's 2 more bins down here for thicker yarns, worsted weight, bulky, Aran. I have a lot of worsted weight yarn left over from old stash, but I am anticipating using a lot of it, hopefully this year. You can see clearly not all my stash fits in everything. But this is, for the most part, the yarn. I cram a lot of yarn into these bins. I know it's not as much as some people's stash, but it's enough where I feel like I need to monitor it, because if it expands past this, and past that little pile over there, and past the pile that I have downstairs, and this pile that I'm working on downstairs, and my bag of blanket yarn, it will be out of control, and I will lose track of all of it. So here is the second wireframe shelving unit. It's not actually connected to the other one because they are slightly different sizes, just enough that they don't line up properly, which is slightly annoying, but it gives me a place to keep these, which are the arms of my tabletop Swift. I can keep them safely tucked between here, away from curious dogs. So we'll start at the bottom here. This is my scrap fabric stash. A lot of my scrap fabric is left over from stuff that my mom has used. And I went through buying a lot of fat quarters phase when I started making project bags and playing around with quilting and all that. There is clearly some fabric that doesn't fit in these things. There's 4 of these. You can't even see them. 4 of these. This one's full of felt, but there's 4 of these little tubs in this cube. Let me put them back in there. And then there's a, I think, 16-gallon tub and another little tub here. This is also where I keep any scrap batting, and the rest of my heat bond is under here too. Here is more sewing stuff. You can see I have another spare cube, because everything used to be in these cubes. This is a bucket full of clothes that I might turn into something else, use for scraps, and also patterns. I have printed patterns and purchased patterns, any paper that I need up here. And here is my fiber stash. You can see that I turned this into more of a bucket than a shelf. I call it the fiber pit. This is all stuff that I'm planning on straightforward spinning and plying on my wheel or on a spindle. There's a couple of things in here that goes on a spindle. Just ready to be yarn. This is my pillowcase of fluffs. That's why I made it kind of a pit cave thing, so I can just toss them in there and then root out the ones that I want when I'm ready to spin. Here, I did keep this a shelf, but I put up this cotton yarn as a kind of a cage, and this is fiber stash for more art yarn spinning, for core spinning, for spinning locks, just playing around with color and texture and that kind of stuff. You can see I've got some crochet cotton in here, little bits, samples. There are a couple of yarns in here. I do have some Angelina for making rolags, and it's decorated by my ridiculous art yarn. But this is all stuff that I intend to spin into art ear yarns. Let's scoot you up again. Scoot. And this is what's on top of this shelf. Let's not use my rigid heddle loom as a towel rack. I use my rigid heddle loom as a towel rack most of the time because it's hard to clamp it to a table, so I don't use it as much as I want to. But there's my rigid heddle loom, there's this electric ball winder that I don't really like using anymore, but it's up here because my mom uses it. This is my case of threads for sewing. I have a jar of crochet cotton. The thing this was wound into collapsed, so I put it on a ball winder. But this is the crochet cotton that I use to tie skeins when I'm washing them, that kind of thing. And I have a milliner's head that I use to sometimes block hats, sometimes just photograph hats. A lot of crouching in this video. This is currently my fleece station. It's a drying rack, which I also use for drying. You can see I've got some hand spun up there that was drying. It's all dry now, I just haven't moved it. But I have towels clipped to two of the levels to dry fleece fluffs on. This is a lid to one of those 10-gallon plastic totes, which I keep dry fluff on, ready to comb. Here are my combs. They do come with a stand that you can clamp to a table to pull the fluff off of or to use for combing, but like I said, nothing clamps to these tables because they're plastic. There's a towel on the floor underneath this drying rack, as well as having the towels here to just sort of absorb things. There's another towel on the floor that I'm actually standing on. It's rolled up now, but I unroll it when I'm ready to comb so that debris falls into the towel so that we don't have to do quite so much vacuuming up here. Behind it, yeah, you can see it back there. There's another one of those blue cubes, and it's got a pillowcase full of fluffs that I need to scour. And then underneath it is one of those big, what are they? 38-quart tubs that has two more pillowcases of fluffs that need to be scoured. Here you can see this is where I do all the cutting and pressing for sewing things and quilting things. Also, where I keep a salad spinner. I use that to help dry my fluffs and my socks, and hand spun because then it means less is dripping onto the floor of this room, which is carpeted. But since I'm not washing anything right now, I'm just throwing fluffs that I've combed into it, so that I don't have to keep untying the pillowcase full of fluffs every time I have a fluff. So once that's full, I'll dump it into the fluff pillowcase. I have a cutting mat here. You can see some of the stuff that's from my Craft for 20 Hawkeye quilt, a notebook, some fabric. I have this Tupperware, like a cereal container, that I throw scrap bits into. I've got like scrap bits of fluff and fabric and thread and like yarn ends that I unraveled. And I want to, at some point when this is full of things, do like a spinning cloud just full of weird stuff. I think that would be really fun to spin. So I keep this handy to throw all the scraps, and we'll just turn you slightly. And here's my ironing board. It's a teeny ironing board. Oh, this lighting is wonderful. That's okay, we're almost done. Okay, we'll just adjust so you can see my face. Teeny ironing board, tabletop ironing board, which I honestly find to be more helpful than a big stand-up ironing board. If I had an ironing board like Dr. Kelly from University, where it was like basically a table, that would be one thing, but a regular ironing board, especially if you are ironing quilts, topples easily. This is nice for ironing quilts. You have to do a lot more shifting, but it's on a table, it's not going anywhere, and there's a bed back there. So you can spread it all out, and you won't get all wrapped up in ironing a quilt. Yeah. There is more stuff underneath this table. Most of it is my mom's yarn stash. She has two tubs full of yarn, and then two 38-quart tubs full of fabric, and I don't know what the actual measurement is, but one of those small ones that you can shove under a bed, full of fabric as well, which I do occasionally raid. But that's the extent of all my stuff in this craft room. Hope you enjoyed. I'm sorry about the lighting in this part of the video. Come down here. Can you see me? Block the window. Hey, that looks more like lighting. Well, anyway, this is really awkward right now. I'm gonna scoot you up so I can say goodbye, and we'll get more terrible lighting. Let's do this. There we go. So that is the craft room and all my junk in it. It's really nice to have this space. When I move out, I will definitely have my own craft space, because I don't know how I could fit this into a different part of the house, or wherever I will end up living. But yeah, that's the craft room, and that's my stash, and I hope you all enjoyed it. Stay tuned, if you would like, for a brief walkthrough through the nerdy things on my walls and shelves of my bedroom where I film the regular episodes of the podcast. But if you want to skip that, remember that you can find me at freakishlemon.com. We have a Ravelry group over at Ravelry. If you search Freakish Lemon, you will find it. There is a questions and suggestions thread on there, so if there's anything else you want to see, if there's anything you want me to go into more detail about or anything, let me know. We'll see what we can do. You can follow me at all the fun places: Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, Ravelry. I have an Etsy shop. And yeah. So if you're not going to watch a weird rambling walk through my bedroom to see what nerdery is on the walls, I will see you at the next podcast episode. Bye. Well, hello, and thank you for sticking around to do a quick walkthrough of my room. People have expressed interest in seeing the stuff on my walls, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to stay behind the camera this time just so I can walk quickly through. This is my door. That's the door to my room. There's my giant Doctor Who scarf, almost all the way to the ground. But yeah, I keep all my scarves and things back here, as well as my hat. That's my Renaissance Fair hat. I have this telephone box DVD holder thingy. I got that from my Aunt Kathy. We'll just go up the walls. I know you guys have seen part of this in some of the videos. These are paintings that I did. It's what's the name of that paint? Acrylic paint? Not oil paint. Acrylic paint on denim. That's a signed banana paper by Uematsu Nobuo, who did the music for Final Fantasy. It's a cross-stitch wizard. And then that's the Cantina Band. It's a canvas with a t-shirt pulled over it. There's just a couple of posters. You can see me in the posters. It's my Grand Moff Tarkin commissioned art. A coworker commissioned it for me. Here's some of my big Legos. Fire Nation ship, Millennium Falcon, Yoda. You can see Steve the Duck and some other Scott Johnson artwork on the wall over there. Scott Johnson's It's a Snack print. Farscape poster, Dragon poster, Darth Maul poster. The Nerdtacular 2012 print from the Kickstarter. And here's some more big Legos. They don't fit on shelves. They're too tall or too wide. We've got some character ones. Vader, 3PO, Jango Fett, a battle droid that has collapsed because the elastics gave out, R2-D2, a TIE Interceptor, an AT-AT, a Star Destroyer, which is actually a really cool set. Another t-shirt canvas. Oh, there's me. My Return of the Jedi poster. You can see there's my BB-8 Boxo socks. That's where it lives, on a tray table. So we'll scoot on over here. Let's just show you my dragons on top of my curtains. If you've ever been to a Renaissance fair before, they're the dragons that sit on your shoulder and they have a cord that goes through your sleeve so you can puppet them. Dragon Wind Chime. This is my 56 Geeks print by Scott Johnson. And there's another t-shirt canvas. That's the bulletin board of fun things, including there is a bookmark from Japan that my brother gave me. These are postcards from Spain that Gabby got me when she took her trip out to Spain. This is a tiny X-ray. I got it at a career day one time. I used to have posters here, but the poster frames I have are really cheap and falling apart, so those fell apart. So I have this owl that is scratched. It's a silver reflective sheet with black paint on it, and scratched out the lines of the owl, and I did that in middle school. And this is a painting I did in college. First time using a palette knife, which was fun, and I should look into doing that again. Above the window I have my Gusler Designs Kickstarter reward postcards. There's a window. So bright. Then that's a basket of books that I have not yet read. Those are my to-read books, just the physical ones. This roll has my straight knitting needles in it. This plastic thing is all craft supplies, so paint brushes, paint, stamps, anything I ever craft with, except for knitty things, are in that thing. This is a collapsible hamper that is full of my big projects, just to keep them in one place. And my work backpack. That's a bunch of books that I put up on paperback swap, so I'm waiting for people to request them. The Naboo Cruiser. Down there's a couple of baskets with, that one has hole punches, and that one has paper crafting supplies. I have printer paper and other printable things in this drawer. This is actually a bedside table, but it's slowly falling apart, so I converted it into something else. Hazel the Humpback Whale. This is a Sith probe droid who is wearing an R2-D2 Mickey Mouse hat and an Indiana Jones hat. You can see back there is Treebeard. It's kind of dark. It's hard to see him. But that is a huge action figure that does not fit on any shelves. It's Brian Froud print. That is a signed photo of Gareth David Lloyd, who played Ianto Jones in Torchwood. I was obsessed with Torchwood, and Ianto is still my favorite character out of that show. There's the A New Hope poster. I do not have the Empire Strikes Back poster because a friend of mine got these, and then he didn't want A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, so he called me up. Some marionettes hanging from the ceiling. And here's the bookshelf. You can see I cleared... There's some space up there. It's a miracle. These are all Star Wars books. And more books. More books. Wand. Tiny ships. Tankards. Those are my knitting books right there. That's a set of castanets that I bought in Spain on a school trip. So books, books, books. Oops. Profane cross-stitch. Avert your children. More books, books, books. And then I cleared a little bit of space over there. You'll notice most of these shelves, I stack my books horizontally on top of each other. This does two things. It fits more books in a shelf, and it keeps this from sagging. These are heavy bookshelves when they're full of books. And so here's the fun thing that you get glimpses of. This is the Lego shelves. You'll notice that probably 80% of this is Star Wars. We do have some Harry Potter up there, is Hagrid's Hut. There's 2 classrooms back there and the Hogwarts Express. There's some generic space mech guys up there who kind of blend in. Then we have Bag End, and we have Gandalf's little cart there. But mostly Star Wars. Let's see if we can get a closer look. Get this chair out of the way. And you can see I've had to add space to my shelves to accommodate all of these ships. Here's my X-Wing. Some Pod Racer. Slave One. There's my new Rey. She's the newest. Wampa Cave. Pod Racer, Y-Wing. And then we have this box, which is actually my knitting equipment. This is a roll of DPNs. My roll of crochet hooks is, well, here's a roll of tiny, tiny crochet hooks, but my roll of regular crochet hooks is in with my crochet backpack. These are circular needles, my interchangeable set, miscellaneous stitch holders and things, needle gauges. Got a bunch of tiny notebooks at the ready, and a bunch of notions pouches full of things ready to go. Here's what this shelf currently looks like. These are the spools that I showed on Instagram. I took some scraps left over from the Granny Square blanket, not Granny Square, Cozy Memories blanket, and just glued them onto some spools. And then this is my desk. You see this part of it in the videos. But here's the rest of the desk. My lovely new Star Wars desktop. And underneath my desk, I have a piece of foam that I use for stabbing. Oh, and there's some fiber under there. And then this thing is full of documentation. Of course, we've got Superman and a strange giant with no skin. Here's my TV with my sweet, sweet Captain Phasma and Stormtrooper Hot Wheels cars. That mouse goes to this TV. It's hooked up to the Mac Mini, which is behind it. That's what I do my podcast editing on. You can see there's my fun things. My PlayStation, my Blu-ray player, my VHS player. And behind here, this tub, that one right there, is all Lego instruction books. And then Star Wars things, the Hobbit game, which I've never played because when I got it, the rules were very confusing. We just put it away to a later date and never did anything with it. That's the hand spun yarn that I have up in the shop for sale. Here's my scale that I use for the yarn, and then these two plates, this cookie sheet, and the silicone mat that's on it, these are reserved for crafting purposes. So if I need to do shrinky dinks, that's what this is for. Sometimes I use the plates just to put beads in to keep them from rolling around, that kind of stuff. Snacks! I keep snacks in here. These two boxes hold shop inventory. You can see through here. There's a DPN cozy. And there's some notions pouches. Or, no, this whole thing is project bags. They're just folded up in here. This is a bowl of mini skeins that I've prepped for swapping. Nerdy plushies, including lots of Star Wars ones. Bookworm. This one was my first microbe plushie. It's the Streptococcus germ, responsible for strep throat. Fun fact, all through school, grade school, I got strep throat once a year, 3 times a year my senior year. And I haven't had it since, knock on wood, cross your fingers. You can see we have a Jedi Mickey back here. We've got Boober from Fraggle Rock. And a bunch of fun things. A little dark back there, it's hard to see. Then we have this shelf, which has the collectibles that are out. This guy looks very out of place, doesn't he? He is Scorpius from the TV show Farscape. And I have lots of dragons. And a ship, and more dragons. And then I'd love to be able to display these guys again someday. These 4 are from the anime Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann, and this one is from Neon Genesis Evangelion. Well, that's how they pronounce it in the show. I don't know how you pronounce it in real life. Then we have some board games. And a tub full of Lord of the Rings action figures and weird action figures. I think you can see that Sherlock Holmes up there. That's Dungeons and Dragons Clue, which my brother got me for Christmas. And then some more games and Star Wars things. Those are a couple of paintings I did sometime in college. These are scrap yarns. Those are some Lion Brand bonbons. Those are some other scrap yarns. And then the back of my closet door, we have a towel rack that holds mini quilts and my sock blockers. And then I put these command strips on the back of the door to put ink progress things on. Those are my bunny nuggets that won't necessarily become bunnies. That's my needle felting stuff. That's my granny square project. That's a pair of socks that I will be casting on but haven't yet. And that's my embroidery stuff. All my embroidery stuff is in there. And then another Star Wars poster over here. And that's my room. Remember that I do have a questions and suggestions thread, so if you want to see anything else in detail or want to find out about, want to know the story behind anything else in my room, go ahead and ask. Okay, bye.